Welcome to the Love, Laugh, Live chat show with myself and the gorgeous Dav Ubi.
So प्यार करो हंसो ते जुग जुग जियो वाला show. So this show is about how to love with passion, how to laugh with pleasure and how to love with peace.
And ਇਹਦਾ ਮਤਲਬ ਹੈਗਾ ਆ ਪਿਆਰ ਕਰੋ ਸਾਰੇ ਦਿਲ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਹੱਸੋ ਦਿਲ ਭਰ ਕੇ and ਜਿਓ ਸ਼ਾਂਤ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ.
So my name is Devinder Ubi. I'm a life and spiritual coach, and sitting next to me my beautiful co-host.
And my name is Gurdyal Garcha and I'm an empowerment and resilience coach. So Dav, can you let us know what today's topic's all about?
So today's topic is about empathy and sympathy, or the fark kiya, and through a story we're going to tell in a couple of minutes that there is a massive difference, and empathy is something that we're going to focus on and show the signs of empathy that we all could recognize is that part of our character and the way we think. So I'm going to start off with the story. It's called The Ladder of Light. So I need to put my glasses on because the writing's pretty small. So we're going to do this story together. So I'll do the first page and then you can do the rest. So once upon a time, a woman found herself at the bottom of the deep, dark well. It was called the Well of Despair and was a place that she went to when she couldn't cope with the world, her life, or simply with those with whom she shared her existence. It was a place where she could curl herself into a ball and rock herself to sleep. When she was in the well, she would often look up and see the small white light that she longed to reach. It was an entrance to the well, but it always felt such a long way away, and she had no idea on how to reach the light. Whenever she looked around her, all she saw were the dark walls of the well. The light was too far to reach, and the darkness seemed strangely comforting. Down in the well, she could simply be with her fears and not fight them. She would become her fears and not have to pretend anymore. One day, after she had been in the well for such a long time, she heard a voice. She recognized the voice instantly as Educated, who came to see her often. He brought his knowledge of her situation and had studied its causes and believed he had solutions. He shouted down from the entrance to the well, "It's okay, I have the solutions. I will send down the medicine and the therapy you need. I hope you can hear me as you seem such a long way away." She heard him but knew that Educated had tried to help before. He had shouted many times from the entrance to the well and she had taken some of his advice. However, she always found herself back at the Well of Despair. Then she heard another, even more familiar voice. It was Sympathy. And she knew her well too. Sympathy had loved her and would often visit and call down into the well. Today was no different. "I can see you down there. It must be so lonely. We love you and want you to leave the Well of Despair. We have a warm place for you and want you to join us soon. We know it's hard, but try to climb up the ladder of light. It is there if you look for it."
So we hope you enjoyed that first part of the story, read beautifully by Dav. So I'm just going to read the second part. She knew that sympathy meant well, but however hard she tried, she just couldn't see the ladder of light. She so wanted to be with Sympathy again and to feel her love. But however hard she tried, the ladder of light never came into view. And then she heard a voice that she hadn't heard before. It was gentle and warm. This voice also spoke to her from the entrance to the well, but she could hear it much more clearly. "Hold on, I'm coming down to meet you," the voice said. Suddenly, he was beside her. "I know how you feel. It's so cold and dark down here, isn't it?" She looked at him in the darkness and felt the warmth of his smile. "Yes, it's cold. But how did you find me and how did you climb down into the Well of Despair so fast?" He placed his arm around her and held her to him. Speaking gently in her ear, he whispered to her, "I have been in the Well of Despair many times before. I know my way in, but I also know my way out. I have come to carry you out and show you the ladder of light." For the first time since she could remember, she felt safe, In his arms, she felt that he knew her and that he could sense her feelings and why she had struggled to climb out of the well. "But I'm scared," she said to him. "Part of me wants to stay there in the darkness." "I know," he replied. "I felt that too, but then I made it out of the well and found myself again. I can help you do this too. Just climb on my back and I will carry you out of the well." She climbed onto his back and he walked just a few steps. There, just a few paces away from where she had been crying, was the ladder of light. She couldn't believe that she hadn't been able to see something so close. He grabbed the first rung of the ladder and started to climb. He talked to her as they climbed, reassuring her that all would be well. Halfway up the ladder, she looked up and saw the light was much brighter now. She felt good and wanted to reach the light as fast as she could. "I'm okay to climb the rest of the way by myself now," she said to him. He smiled and gently placed her onto the ladder. "I will be right here behind you," he said. As she reached the top of the well and entered into the light, she looked behind her for the man that had helped her climb from the well of despair. "I don't even know your name," she said to him, and was ashamed that she had allowed him to carry her up the ladder of light without knowing his name. "My name is Empathy," he said, and in that moment she realized that empathy was all that she had needed to climb out of the well of despair. She smiled and thanked him once again. "Now that you have climbed out of the well," he said, "you will also be able to climb down and help others find the ladder of light. This means I will always be with you and you will never be able to lose me." She realized that empathy was now a powerful force in her life and that she could use it to help others climb the ladder of light. Her life now had true meaning, and she was grateful for her encounter with empathy, and she never feared the well of despair again. So now, I hope you really enjoyed that story, The Ladder of Light. And I'm sure there's a lot of you that will have resonated with it. So now we're going to both discuss the 13 signs of empathy, because if you can understand the story, Educated tried to talk to her and gave her lots of advice, and then Sympathy also spoke to her in a loving way, but didn't manage to get her out of the well. And he spoke to her from the top of the well. And then you had Empathy, but what did Empathy do that was different? He climbed down into the well, sat with her, spoke to her, and also guided her out into the light. So those are the differences, but we're going to speak more about how that all comes about and what empathy actually means.
So this show is really about, can you recognize these sort of signs? Are you a person full of empathy or are you full of sympathy? Because obviously through that story, you want to be a person who's full of empathy, because that's where the real healing and real support comes from. And sometimes we don't realize that. And also how people behave towards you. Are they really being sympathetic or empathetic? So we know where the true support is coming from. So understanding empathy. So many people treat empathy just like being superhuman, having power like reading people's minds. They often brag about their empathetic abilities, and not because they genuinely care about people, but because they need something to make them feel special. So real empaths, on the other hand, do not need titles or superpowers, because they know that empathy is a gift as well as a curse. At its core, empathy is a very complicated human emotion. According to the Encyclopedia of Social Psychology, it is defined as understanding another person's experiences by putting yourself in their place. In other words, empathy is your ability to stand in someone else's shoes to see the world from their perspective. But interesting thing about empathy, that almost everyone can feel it, right? So let's say most people experience shades of empathy on a daily basis. You will empathize with a mother struggling with a toddler in the grocery store, because we've all been there, haven't we? And we've had experiences like these in some one way or another. So we all practice empathy. So what separates an empath from everyone else? That's the question. So while empaths have more emotional potential and sensitivity, they feel stronger emotions and identify closely with the world around them. Now, naturally, that changes how they interact with people and places. So sometimes this extra empathy helps them bond with new friends or understand their own emotions. Other times it leaves them feeling reckless, anxious or exhausted.
So there you go. So that's the first one, understanding empathy. So now I'm just going to be talking about matching your environment. So in the mind of an empath, environments are more than just physical spaces. Each one carries its own mood, attitude and energy level, which means different environments evoke different kinds of emotions. Some, for example, are calm and quiet. They might create emotions like peace and comfort, but others are loud and chaotic. So they create things like stress, fear and concern. If you are an empath, you may pick up on these emotions the moment you enter the room. Then mirror those emotions with your own mood and energy. This happens because empaths absorb and reflect their environment, even if those reflections drive them crazy.
I mean, that happens to us, doesn't it?
Yeah.
How many times do we say that then we enter a room? We're fine before we enter the room. As soon as we enter the room, we start to feel like anxious, or sometimes even the heart rate goes up, or suddenly you feel sweaty. You just feel like all of a sudden, for no reason at all, you just start to feel, geez, like that. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
But then you step out the room and you're fine. So what was that? We just somehow absorbed the energy. Somebody in that room could have been feeling so much fear, anxiety, that sometimes we pick up on that. That's what empaths, when they say sometimes it's a gift or sometimes it can be seen as a curse, because we start to feel all their fearful thoughts and whatever memories they have.
So basically, sometimes it can mean that when you walk into a room, that it could be the difference between feeling light, or it could be the difference between feeling really heavy. So whatever's happening in that room, you can actually pick up on that on an emotional level. And you may not have been aware of it before, but now that we're talking about it, you might actually think about it that little bit more.
Even if you're talking to somebody on the phone.
Yeah.
They might say, but something tells you you're feeling a bit, there's some yuckiness you feel inside, isn't it?
And you can pick up on that energy. You can understand it to a much deeper level than most people. So the source of support. So does everyone come to you for advice? So that's a question. If you think about it, it is no secret that empaths are fantastic listeners. They genuinely care about what people are saying. They take the time to understand their problems and identify with their struggles. And the operative word there is identify with their struggles. It may feel natural to you, but that kind of support and validation is hard to find. But something else separates an empath from any other good listener. Empaths don't just sit there quietly. They don't just smile and nod along. They are actively involved in the conversation, and they try their best to respond in meaningful ways. Empaths know there is a big difference between sympathy and empathy. Now this is where we're going to talk about sympathy and empathy. So if you think about sympathy, and do you remember we're going to do the phone call thing? So I've lost somebody, and I'm grieving, so you're going to call
me. So
I'm
pretending I'm somebody who's going to sympathise with you. So this is somebody who's got just understands just how to sympathise. So I'll call you and I'll say, oh, I heard about just, your brother-in-law passed away. How are you feeling? Hope everything's okay.
Yeah, it's okay. It's all good.
So, I was hoping that, I could be there with you, but I'll try, if I can, come over. But I'm calling just to say, I'm really sorry about what happened. And those sort of things. I know that does happen. I know he wasn't well for a while. But I just wanted to call and just let you know, I'm really sorry what's happened.
Okay, thank you for that.
Okay, so that's me sympathising. She's gone through a loss. And so now I'm going to be a person who really empathises with what's happened with her. So I'm going to call you somebody who's got the virtues of being an empathic person. So, hello, Sashrikal, how are you? Okay?
Yeah. Well, no, I'm not that great, to be honest.
I truly understand. Must be feeling awful because the moment I could just feel the pain, and I just kept understanding how must be feeling so, the sadness must be consuming you, and I really feel it. And I know I've got work till 1 o'clock, but straight after work I would like to spend some time with you, if that's okay.
Oh, thank you. That would be so kind of you.
And is there anything else I can do? I know you must be busy with everyone. I can pick up something, but I just want to let you know I really do feel your pain, because it's something I experienced, and I know it's not an easy process, but I'll be there as much as I can. I want to help you get through this process, but you're not alone. Sachi, I do understand the pain you're going through and the grief you have to go through, and it is a process we have to deal with, but I'm there with you.
Thank you so much.
And I'll see you soon as I finish work.
Thank you, thank you. So if we just think about that situation, and I'll just explain it a little bit. So somebody who's sympathizing is somebody who, so ਜਦੋਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਕੋਈ sympathy ਕਰਦਾ ਆ ਕਿ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਦੁੱਖ ਹੈਗਾ ਆ ਪਰ ਇੰਨਾ ਨਹੀਂ ਦੁੱਖ ਹੈਗਾ. So basically ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ on an emotional level they're not feeling any of your pain or your grief or anything like that. So they're doing something that they feel is a duty. So they're making the phone call, and then as soon as they put the phone down they will get on with their life. ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਕੇ ਅਫਸੋਸ ਕਰਕੇ ਕਹਿਣਾ ਵੀ ਹਾਂ ਵੀ ਬਹੁਤ ਔਖਾ ਹੋਇਆ this ਤਾਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਫੋਨ ਜਦੋਂ ਰੱਖ ਦੇਣ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਆਪਣੀ ਲਾਈਫ they will continue with their life as normal. But ਜਿਹੜਾ ਫਿਰ empath ਹੁੰਦਾ ਆ that person who called ਜਿਹੜਾ second ਸੀਗਾ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਕੀਤਾ ਸੀਗਾ, they will be so upset and they will feel your pain. ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਇੰਨਾ ਅਫਸੋਸ ਹੋਊਗਾ, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਰੋਣਾ ਵੀ ਆ, they will be upset for you. ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ support ਵੀ ਇੰਨੀ ਦੇਣੀ ਆ ਕਿ ਹਾਂ ਵੀ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਕਹਿਣਾ ਵੀ ਕਿਹੜੀ ਘੜੀ ਮੈਂ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਕੋਲ ਆ ਜਾਵਾਂ ਵੀ ਕਰਕੇ ਮੈਂ ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਦੁੱਖ ਵਡਾਉਣਾ ਆ. I want to be there for you. ਕਿ ਮੈਂ ਅੱਜ ਲਈ ਨਹੀਂ ਇਕੱਲਾ ਹੋਣਾ, ਵੀ ਇਹ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈਗਾ ਕਿ ਮੈਂ ਅੱਜ ਆ ਕੇ ਅਫਸੋਸ ਕਰਕੇ ਮੈਂ ਮੁੜ ਕੇ ਚੱਲ ਜਾਣਾ. They want to be there for you continuously. So the difference is that with sympathy is somebody who is on the outside looking in, but the empath is on the inside of you looking out. So ਉਹ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਪੈਰਾਂ 'ਚ ਖੜੇ ਆ ਤਾਂ ਉਹ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਜਿੱਦਾਂ ਮੋਢੇ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਮੋਢਾ ਲਾਉਣ ਨੂੰ ਤਿਆਰ ਆ, ਪਰ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਸਿੰਪੈਥੀ ਕਰਦਾ ਉਹਨੇ ਬਸ ਮੂੰਹ ਹਿਲਾ ਕੇ they're gonna go. They're not going to be invested in your well-being, your mental health, your physical health. So they've just done something that they feel is a duty.
Yeah, it's a duty, and like being somebody with empathy, they want to share the pain.
It's a deeper,
yeah,
it's a much deeper feeling.
Your pain becomes their pain.
Yeah.
And they want to realize this pain can be shared. The more it's shared, it's easier to handle a situation. Somebody who sympathizes, they're actually fearful really on a subconscious level. They don't want to experience that pain.
Yeah.
But they feel they have a duty and obligation where I will just sort of like be polite. It's a decent thing to do, so but they don't really want to go into the depth of the pain because they have some fear thing going on. So
or it could just be that some people haven't experienced what you're experiencing.
Yeah.
So therefore they don't know how to be empathic.
That's right.
So that's another reason. So we're not saying that anybody who sympathizes is wrong or anybody who's empathizes is wrong or
They're not
right.
that level of
It's just
awareness
their level of understanding. So just to continue, so most good listeners are sympathetic. They listen to your story, maybe they are moved by your experience, but they are standing on the outside looking in. An empathetic person, on the other hand, adopts your perspective. They stand on the inside looking out. They try to understand how your experience feels and they take your experience to heart. Unfortunately, this kind of empathetic listening can be incredibly tasking, especially for an empath. You can get so involved in another person's life that it drains your energy and it leaves you feeling emotionally cluttered. So if you are an empath, it is important to stay within your limits, be there for your friends and your family and give them your support and whatever they need, but remember to look out for your own emotional health first. You can't always be everybody's rock or their springboard, otherwise you will get so tangled up in their problems that you will never stop to think about your own.
So that's one of the signs. So another sign is imaginary simulation. So do you ever lay back and wonder how life could have gone differently? What if I was born into a different family? What if I met a different group of friends or in schools? What would your life look like? Because people are empaths, they're always in their imagination. And so many empaths ask these questions on a daily basis and they use them to run something called a mental simulation. So according to the university research, simulations are one of the most common avenues for human empathy before you can walk a mile in someone else's shoes. So to run a simulation of their life, you have to imagine, sorry, I can't turn the page over. So you have to imagine their existence. What must it be like first? You build a world, then you walk inside of it. What you are doing essentially the same thing when you daydream about a different possibility. You are running simulations in your mind. You are imagining new experience and you are feeling the empathy for another person, even if that person doesn't exist. So, like I said, so if you're going through that, you know, like you've lost a loved one or something. So in my mind, I'm already got this simulation, this image in my mind that what are you going through, how are you getting up, you know, how are you feeling. So an empath will have all these images in their mind. So somebody who's empathetic, they won't have the image at all. They won't even go to that level. But an empath will actually start having every little detail. So how you getting up and how you going to so we want to feel and become part of your, you know, challenge, your experience.
So the next one is deepening your relationships. So deepening your relationships, empaths will form special bonds with the people in their friendships. For example, they tend to be more intimate and emotional because empaths like to connect with people on a deeper level. You'll continue to read that.
So they like to embrace the little moments that shape you as a person and show you that they don't just like you, they really want to get to know you. That is why empaths tend to have a smaller number of stronger friendships. They take time to explore the people they have instead of searching for someone new. So empaths really focus on they focus on quality and not quantity. So because imagine if it was quantity, you can imagine all these emotions they'll be taking on. They won't survive, they won't live much longer, would they? And
they feel really depleted.
They will completely depleted. Yeah. They're feeling depleted of just a few of those friends. But that's why they only focus on those few friends, because that's where they know they have enough resources, enough energy to really empathize and help them through whatever they're going through. So, and they'll have those particular friends where they're meant to be in connection with, maybe on a deeper soul level.
And I think it's your choice, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a choice of wanting to be like that. Because I think you want to support people, but you want to do it where it actually means something. So that's the difference between an empath and somebody who's sympathetic. So meaning in everything. So most empaths are happy and healthy people. A study done in 2009, the research found out that empathy increases well-being over time. Even though empaths have extreme emotional highs and lows, they are actually more satisfied than the average person. So why is that? Because they find more meaning in their lives. They discover emotional depth in the tiniest things, like every casual conversation or every passing glance. If you are the kind of person who finds meaning in everything, you may be an empath. So by this, you might be an empath. You want to connect with people on a deeper level. To see, what do they call it? Where a fair weather friend. So a fair weather friend is somebody who just goes out for tea, coffee, here and there, but you're not really there.
Connecting.
They are just friends on a superficial level, but then you've got your deeper friends where you can ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕੋਈ ਵੀ ਗੱਲ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨਾਲ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਆਪਣਾ ਦੁੱਖ ਸੁੱਖ ਵੰਡਾ ਸਕਦੇ ਹੋ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨਾਲ. So that's where not only are you being empathic towards them, but they're being empathic towards you. So it's like a much deeper connection, isn't it?
Yeah, but I think you're also finding meaning whatever they're going through. You're not going to say, oh, that happened to me. You find out we're there to help them find.
You want to connect on a deeper level.
Yeah, deeper level, but but know what is the meaning behind that circumstances that's challenging you're going through. So you're lightening them at the same time. You're giving them a different perspective, and so nothing's a mistake. So empaths can do that. They got the ability to make people understand, see the bigger picture of what their challenge is. So and sympathetic people, they just want to, hello, how are you? Fine, okay. They don't want to invest in the energy of going deeper into something. They just like to be, like you said, on the surface. So the other sign is reckless giving. Okay, so be aware if you're doing this. Okay, empaths often give more than they can afford. They get swept up in the power of story as they start to identify with the hardships of others and do everything they can to help, even if that means taking on too much. So while it's a wonderful idea, overcommitment, it can be a disaster because many empaths just don't know when to stop. They spend too much time and they care too much that they become reckless. So we don't realize when we're doing too much of something, people to take you for granted, thinking they're always available, and they don't appreciate all how much energy you're investing into them. And sometimes we, in return, start to undervalue our own needs, that we somehow neglect our own needs. So when we start neglecting our own needs, thinking everybody else's needs are more important, then that's when outside circumstances, people will start to mirror that back and they start neglecting our needs as well. But neglecting our needs, we start depleting ourselves energetically, that we actually start to feel unwell. And we start to feel, that's when we start to experience like mental issues, mental health issues and depression and everything, because we're just giving too much and depleting ourselves.
So basically we've really resonated with their problems so much, we forget everything about maybe our own family, our own friends, our own physical health, mental health, because we're so invested in their life right now.
Yeah.
And that's where you've got to be careful, and you've got to create boundaries where you are still taking care of yourself. And sometimes that can be difficult, you know, not to completely step away from somebody else's situation.
Yeah.
But it is important to be aware of it at least. So extreme sensitivity. You are too sensitive. Empaths hear this all the time because the tiniest thing may trigger the largest reactions. The truth is, empaths get their feelings hurt pretty easily. They feel things very strongly, so they are generally sensitive. There is nothing wrong with that, but it can lead to some unnecessary drama. If this sounds like you just might be an empath. So there's negative susceptibility. Negative susceptibility, people affect empaths more than anyone because empaths draw emotions from the people around them. So if they are spending time with some negative people, it is going to have a huge impact on their own attitude. The bad news is empaths are attracted to toxic people. You are drawn to their intensity and emotional volatility. Even if these people drain your energy and constantly stress you out. Now, we had a lovely conversation. Well, it wasn't a lovely conversation. It was just a conversation. So basically...
all my conversations with you are lovely.
So if we think about this, where we're thinking about a narcissist person, somebody who loves to take, energy from somebody else, and then you've got an empath who loves to give energy. So this is a toxic relationship because one person just wants to take whatever you can give them, and then the empath wants to constantly give because that's what makes them feel good. But then there's an imbalance because if you think about it, you know, the empath is going to feel constantly drained. They're going to constantly feel on edge, whereas the narcissist is going to constantly feel empowered because they're taking energy from somebody else. So just be aware of that. If that's something that could be happening.
That's usually is a dynamics, usually that you find an empath is always they attract, you know, a narcissist and a narcissist. They attract each other because they both need something of each other. So an empath, how it works against them because they're also in that place where they don't value themselves enough, when they got used to neglecting their own needs, they feel important, they feel their life is meaningful when they can give so much to someone. So they would attract a narcissist because a narcissist love to take. And so they haven't got nothing to give, but they love to take. So, but that's why it becomes too toxic. The relationship is an imbalance, so it becomes toxic relationship. But then codependency happens, and you know, real attachment happens, and then this is where the learning comes for both of them. They both need to attract each other. Both got a very deep wounds that they need to heal. That's why they attract each other as well. So why did the empath feels that the only thing they can feel valuable in their life if they can please other people, they become people pleasers. That's the only way I feel loved And obviously a narcissist, where they always had an issue of when they were young, where they felt abandoned and rejected, so they feel that they need that extra love from people to feel to be accepted.
Yeah.
So there's something happening deeper, that they need these inner zakham wounds that need to be healed. But this is when you become a super empath. We're talking about a super empath. They become aware of their patterns, and their narcissists actually fear super empaths.
Yeah, so that's an interesting one. So that's, again, and that is where, you know, you might think and be more aware of the kind of relationship that you may be in terms of whether you're an empath or whether you're a narcissist. I mean, obviously, this is going right down into personal trauma, wounds, but it is something that's worth, you know, giving yourself some kind of self-awareness on. I think that's interesting.
So another sign, standing up for others. So do you stand up for others in need? Okay. Empaths are often the first to get involved because they empathize with people who are struggling. This comes from another study in 1990 in the journal called Motivation and Emotions, found that empathetic people have a powerful reaction to emotions like distress. While most people stand by and watch, empaths are much more likely to take action. So, like action in the sense like recent thing we did, like when I went to Africa and everything, and I actually saw people struggling, how they were struggling without water and something. So there, maybe as an empath, thinking, I need to do something, I need to do something. These people, how they're struggling without water, and because I'm at home, I look at my life is so easy and it feels unfair. You know, there, my empathic side came up thinking, I need to take action here. So we ended up doing a fundraising event. So that's a little example that you want to do something, you know, and if you don't do it, you know, you feel like something's not right here. Why did I end up in that place? There's probably a reason why I had to do this. You start making all these scenarios and stuff.
Yeah, and I think part of being an empath means that you do feel guilty because you think you're so better off compared to the other person. And again, you are in the place of people pleasing, doing something that, you know, as much as the event was important, it's so important to do stuff like that. You know, we're not denying that. But again, there's an element of guilt in there. And that's when you know you're not coming from a place of love. Yes. But the next part is setting time limits. And because empaths, like we've just said, they just love to give. They're constantly giving. So if you are an empath, you probably are the first to go overboard and the first to get carried away. So like many empaths, you have to set firm boundaries for you and your time. You may say things like, I can only give you 10 hours this week, which to me that sounds like a lot. Or I need at least 3 hours for myself. These strict time limits keep you from giving too much control. Otherwise you would spend too much time on other people and not nearly enough time on yourself. And I think this is where, you know, if something's happened, you know, somebody's going through a really difficult time, but because you've associated and you've identified yourself with their trauma or their experience, you find it hard to step away because then you're not helping them. So whereas you want to constantly give, so even 10 hours, even though that sounds like a lot, you're still saving some time for yourself. So you've got to try and step away from the situation, think, well, they will be able to survive without you, but and maybe other people need to get involved so that you can actually recharge and, you know, work on what you need to do so that you're not sort of feeling guilty that I need to be there all the time.
Yeah, so this actually leads to the last sign on this, that dependence on solitude. So empaths need space to stop, digest and think things through. So without these moments of solitude, empaths stay swept up in the moment. You will make a rash emotional decision without using your head. So luckily, some time alone, which is so important, can help you relax, reset, and that way you can think logically, adjust your priorities and move forward with a clear head. So like I said, we empaths tend to be around people because we think we need to support them, but at the same time we can deplete ourselves, and this is why it's so important to go into solitude, or I say go into the cave, go in the hermit mode, to recharge, to reset and to clear the energies, because when we're around people, their energies do stick onto our aura and we start to feel their pain, suffering continuously until we don't know who we are. We don't know if, is that my thought, is that their thought, is that my pain, is that your pain? It gets so confusing. So this is why we need to detach, recharge, cleanse, and just clear your energy. And this is very important for all empaths to do this. And obviously, by the time we've gone through all the signs, you know if you're an empath by now or not. So you know that if you are definitely an empath, it's so important to get some solitude time to cleanse yourself, so you can actually think, this is my thoughts now. Now do how I need to deal with this situation.
So going back to the well of despair, and if you can imagine, the empath was the person that went down into the well and spoke to the girl and helped her to come out of the well. And he also said that I've been down the well on so many different occasions. So, you know, and it does make you think of her as being such a sad person, you know, who just wanted to shut off from the world in order to kind of feel that despair. But the empath is the person that wasn't standing at the top of the well. They went down and stood by that person's side and said, look, I'm going to help you get out. So that is the difference. Whereas somebody who's sympathetic, they're just going to say, Jal, you know, try kari, you know, main the hegi and this, that, and the other. But it's all just, it's just verbal. It's not taking any real action. Yeah. So somebody who's an empath, they will go above and beyond. And again, it is so important to, you know, detach, because you need to kind of look at what your priorities are, your family's priorities, your friends, and so that you feel renewed and you're not just that person who's gone down into the well and you've decided to stay at the bottom of the well. Because I can imagine that could happen. If somebody that is a really good friend of yours has lost somebody, or a family member, you might feel like, well, this is where I need to be now. I can't continue with my life. I need to just be here with this person. So then you're so engrossed in your empathic lifestyle because that's where you feel you're needed. You neglect yourself, but then you feel good because you feel like you're doing something for somebody else. But then that might mean you're neglecting your family and other people who may need you, and or even just yourself. You're not doing anything that's making you feel good. And maybe you're not even allowing that person to evolve. And we talked about the story about the butterfly. You know, do you remember in the cocoon? That's a really good example.
So that's an example. Like sometimes we have to respect people's process when they are in the well. You know, when, like, so let's say a caterpillar is in the cocoon, and somebody who thinks that, oh, I don't want them to suffer, I don't want them to go through that pain and stuck in that darkness. So somebody comes along thinking, I'm going to actually break open the cocoon so that the caterpillar or the butterfly can come out. But because they didn't trust their process and have faith in their process, they didn't allow them actually strengthen themselves to grow and actually use the darkness to make them be fully formed into the butterfly. So obviously when they break the cocoon and the butterfly comes out, the wings are not strong enough to fly. So it only won't have a lifespan probably for about a few hours. But there's somebody thinking, oh, I can't see them suffer. But somebody, an empath, you got to realize that you got to not hinder their growth, their journey of coming into that darkness, because in that darkness there is something beautiful happening. They've got to go through that process. An empath will be with them through that process and not try to being like as a hindrance and try and delay the process. It will go through it right till the end, till they're able to break free from the cocoon and fly as a butterfly and be through that transformation. So for me, as we can consider, relate to being an empath, so if I know somebody's in the well, I'm not going to be like a person, like in the beginning, is an educated person. Look, I know what therapy you need, I know what treatment you need. That's not really helping the person who's in the depth of the well. Actually, the empath who thinks that I'm not going to break you free from that cocoon, I'm going to be with you, stay there with you until you've gone through the whole process. So that's really allowed them to strengthen themselves and become a better version. This is where the transformation occurs. So that's why people who are educated, people who are sympathetic, they think they're helping, but they have to actually help them to grow and evolve. They find themselves back in the well again. So not to go back in the well again, as a victim, you can go into a well again, but to help somebody else, but not you as the person who's in despair.
Yeah. I mean, we've got a little bit of time now just to talk about what it actually means to be an empath. I mean, me personally, I mean, I resonate a lot with this, and I know you resonate a lot with this. And sometimes it can be really difficult. Just for instance, you know, somebody that is a close member of my family where they've lost a loved one, and part of me wants to take that pain away. And then through this process, you understand that they've got to do what they need to do in their time, not in my time. You know, we have this thing where, you know, and we all do it. It's not because it's not coming from a place of judgment. It's coming from a place of love. But what really needs to happen is it's got to come from a place of compassion, understanding, respect for the other person's journey. Because sometimes we just want to fix them and say, look, it's all right, you'll be okay, this and this. But really, it's just about standing alongside them and walking with them through their difficult time in their life, and maybe not even speaking, just being with them and helping them. You know, it might just be food, it might just be, you know, whatever it is that they need at that time. I mean, going back, I mean, this is a good one that I wanted us both to discuss. When we, like within our Asian culture, when we talk about of source, you know, we know who the people are who come there, who genuinely knew the person that had passed away. So here you've got the people who sympathize, ਜਿਹੜੇ ਲੋਕ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਅਫਸੋਸ ਕਰਨ ਤਾਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਮਾੜਾ ਮੋਟਾ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਕਰ ਲੈਣੀ ਆ
ਬਹੁਤ ਬੁਰਾ ਹੋਇਆ
ਬਹੁਤ ਨੁਕਸਾਨ ਹੋਇਆ ਹਾਂ ਵੀ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਲਈ ਬਹੁਤ ਔਖਾ ਹੋ ਜਾਣਾ ਇਦਾਂ so they're saying the things they feel they need to say. It's their duty and they're doing what they feel they need to do. ਪਰ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਇੰਨਾ ਦੁੱਖ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈਗਾ ਕਰਕੇ ਉਸ ਵੇਲੇ ਨਾਲੇ ਤਾਂ ਅਫਸੋਸ ਕਰਦੇ ਆ ਪਰ ਫਿਰ ਉਸੇ ਵੇਲੇ they're talking about other stuff. They're talking about, oh, मैं आ देखा सी आ होया सी इधर, so they might gossip a little bit. So that's somebody who जिहड़ा अफसोस करन गया, but they're just sympathizing.
Yeah.
So जिन्हां ना नुकसान होया या जिन्हां नू the person that's lost somebody, they won't like that kind of person coming to do अफसोस. And we've all been through it. But जिहड़ा बंदा बुरी जांदे who's an empathizer, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਬਹੁਤ ਦੁੱਖ ਹੋਣਾ ਆ ਕਿ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਇਦਾਂ ਹੋਇਆ, and they will show a completely different side. So the sympathizer is ਕਹਿ ਦਿੱਤਾ ਜੋ ਕੁਝ ਕਹਿਣਾ ਸੀ ਤੇ ਛੇਤੀ ਅਸੀਂ ਘਰ ਨੂੰ ਜਾਈਏ, you know, ਦਾਲ ਸਬਜ਼ੀ ਬਣਾਉਣੀ ਆ ਜਾਂ ਸ਼ਾਪਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਜਾਣਾ, whatever. So they're the sympathizer, but the empathizer isn't looking at their clock, they're not looking at their watch. They want to be with you because they understand your pain. ਤਾਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਬਹੁਤ ਦੁੱਖ ਹੁੰਦਾ, ਤਾਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਵੀ ਹਾਂ ਵੀ ਮੈਂ ਤੇਰੇ ਕੋਲ ਬੈਠਾ, ਮੈਂ ਤੇਰੇ ਲਈ ਕੁਛ ਕਰਾਂ, you know, ਤੂੰ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਦੱਸ ਮੈਂ ਕੀ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੀ ਹਾਂ ਤੇਰੇ ਲਈ. So it's a completely different conversation.
Yeah.
So all I would say in this situation is if you're going to go and do अफसोस, then please be conscious of how you're being with the person who's lost a loved one.
Yeah.
You know, there is a way to behave.
Yeah. I think it's so important to respect the process. Don't try and rush it, you know, if you want to empathize. People think that, oh, you've been grieving for such a long time, but sometimes we want them to feel better because it makes us feel better. I'm visiting you now, I'm seeing you now, but I feel comfortable visiting you when I know that I don't have to feel heavy with your pain. Because I feel happy, I want you to feel happy. No. It's sometimes we want people to change because it makes you feel better. It's nothing about you at that time. You just trust and respect the process they're going through, because they're going to grow from that pain. And that pain is what, there's no gain without pain. And at the end of the day, what I was going to say, finish off with really, is like, it's a very beautiful thing to be an empathic person. So all we got to be responsible about that. We don't overdo it. We got to respect our own energy. We know there's a limit to things, and being an empathic person, this is part of it's a gift that we're being born with. So,
but it can also be a curse.
Yeah, but that's how we're going to handle the situation. So once we come into the awareness of an empathic person, I need to protect my energy, I need to respect my own energy, but at the same time be there. We've got to learn to know where the balance is. So it's very good to be an empathic person. So we're very lucky to have this information, and hope you can keep listening to this again and again, and be proud of and be grateful for being an empathic person.
Yeah, and even if you're a sympathetic person, that's completely fine. We're not saying there's anything wrong with that. There will be a time when the empathy will come, because anybody can become an empathic person. It's just about where you are on your journey, and that's completely fine. Respect to anyone and everyone in terms of sympathy and empathy. So really hope you enjoy.
So me there
the
to see found this information very useful
and helpful.
And if you can recognize in other people that you know, you can actually. I think it's always important to keep going back and listening to it. In this show and the show we did last week, so if you listen to both of them, they all relate.
So thank you so much, and look forward to seeing you next week. Take care. Goodbye. God bless.